And I feel like it's something you've always heard, that it's a cutthroat business, but really yesterday reflected a huge light on that cutthroat business. And it's almost as if a lot of people were told for the first time that Santa Claus doesn't exist, and they're pissed. They're
Because
like, what
it
is this?
wasn't
Like,
it wasn't
how do
just
you
what
treat
they
somebody
did.
this way?
It wasn't just what they did, Jesse, right? This is the most important thing when you
It's how they
describe
did
to
it.
me like how people got upset at Shanahan. Yesterday, how it went down was unprofessional, right?
Yeah.
Shanahan goes in front of the media on Tuesday. He's adamant when he's asked direct questions about it, saying that, oh, I'm not going to respond to it. We could go back to back with the we could go back and forth
Rotating.
with them during the season. We could rotate backups, all of that. And then,
That was my question. I said, are you going to
right, you
juggle
asked the
them?
question.
Right.
Then the next day, we get a report an hour before practice that Sam Darnold is the 49ers backup. Then 30 minutes later, we find out Trey Lance is not at practice. Then they stick Fred Warner in front of the media, and he doesn't know what to do answering questions about this. That was not fair to him. And finally, it all culminates with Shanahan doing pre-recorded answers on KNBR to try and deliver this message. I thought it was handled awfully. It was handled unprofessionally. And that's where I took greater offense to it, honestly, because to be honest, this was not a decision that I didn't expect. I actually said on Monday, me and Rob Guerrero were going back and forth on it. I said, to me, it looks like they're going to name Sam Darnold the backup. And that's what ended up happening. But what I didn't expect is for it to happen like this. What happened the last 2 days was terrible.
Matt Mayoko, guys, and Vish, that's I kind of agree with you. I mean, on one hand, I kind of the bottom line person who knows the NFL says, look, this kid signed a 4-year contract for $34 million. He's going to be just fine. This is all just talk. I mean, at the end of the day, he's getting paid very, very well, and it's just a wild business. But on the other hand, when you look at Matt Mayoko went on KNBR today, and he said, here was his quote. He said, why the secrecy? Why couldn't they be proactive and create their own narrative? They created way more drama than needed to be created just by the way they decided to clam up and not say anything yesterday. And it kind of plays right to what you were saying. And I'm not sure if there was some indecision or lack of how they wanted to go forward. But I mean, there's a lot of people watching. It's a major, major story. The NFL doesn't have tons of subplots at this point in the year, and this has now become a primary subplot. So, and how they handled this, they painted a picture of, hey, we're going to have a quarterback competition this summer. It'll be decided on the field. And it sounded very fair. Okay, now camp is officially over. So we asked, when are you going to announce your guy? And they said, hey, you know what? Maybe I said, before Pittsburgh. Yep, right before Pittsburgh. Or you could juggle it back and forth. Yep. And I just kind of wonder, guys, and I would love to know your thoughts on this. Do you think that it's possible after they said that they got some pushback from somebody? Trey's agent, Sam's agent, Brandon Allen's agent. Because I get a picture, like in Brandon Allen's case, is that I think that they signed him to a 1 year $1.08 million contract, so $1,080,000, which is, and it's above the minimum. So it was it's above the minimum for him would have been like $840 or something like that, $850, something like
Good
that.
to know.
So why did he sign here? He didn't sign here to be on the practice squad. So I'm guarantee you that if his agent, this guy was number 2 in Cincinnati. This guy could easily be number 2 in a lot of spots. He could probably be number 3 for like 2/3 of the teams in the league. So the Niners are not going to wait till the end of the cut down through his agent and just cut him loose. I'm sure maybe right about now he said, hey, when there's 5 days to go before the deadline, if you want me, great. If not, cut my guy free and he'll go get a league minimum job somewhere else. And no harm, no foul. The fact that they kind of came out of nowhere and were like, hey, Sam Darnold's the guy. What was the timing on that? I wouldn't doubt that if they had to tell Brandon Allen's agent, hey, you got 5 days to create a market. That might have been a promise that Lynch made. So there's just a lot of moving parts to this thing, but I don't get the secrecy. And why not just come out and kind of, as Matt said, create your own story and say what you want to do and set your own parameters. Instead, they put a couple of their players out there and they looked a little uncomfortable. And it wasn't a disaster by any means, but it was, probably should have been the general manager.
Jesse, you want to continue on this?
Yeah, I was just gonna say my initial thought, and that thought hasn't changed. Kruger asked, was there some interference from somewhere else? Yeah, Trey Lance went to them and said, "Get rid of me at all costs. I'm
You
done
think so?
with this." I 100%. Larry, to me, the
But
reason
then,
that
you just think that, Jesse, right?
I think that, yeah.
Yeah.
This is not, of course we haven't heard this, but I think everything leads up to it. Like let's do some tea leaf reading, and you tell me how I do, Larry, because you're the expert. So they said what they said the day before. All of a sudden, 15 minutes before practice, out whatever it was before practice, it's like, oh shit, he basically told us he's not going to be here today. He's out. Well, let's release that Sam Darnold's QB2. We got to tell everybody, because everybody's gonna wonder why Trey Lance isn't here. And then we'll spin it as we gave him the day off. Okay. Yeah, that sounds logical. But then today, I think I got the answer to the question. John Lynch was asked about, have they shopped Trey Lance since February, based off of a report that was given by some national person.
Diana Rossini, right.
Diana Rossini. And he answered that question very directly.
By the way, reported earlier by Mike Florio, too, that they shopped Trey Lance for Kirk Cousins during the Combine. Krug, you brought that up. We talked about that at the time.
Well, not to involve me, but what the hell, I'm here. I kept maintaining to Hensley that they were going to try to shop him by the draft. That was our bet. And then when they didn't trade him at the draft, it's like, see, they had no plans to trade him. Well, I mean, what do you believe? Do you believe they were shopping him, or do you believe they weren't? I kind of believe they were.
Well, they kind of said that they were.
They said they were. They admitted that, right?
But either way, John Lynch answered that question today very directly. No, that's not true. If I had to answer to every national media person, I wouldn't be able to have time to do my job. Let them run wild with the narrative. That's absolutely not true. But then he was asked the same question, but from the other side. Did Trey and his team request a trade? All of a sudden, he's not able to answer that question directly. He says, Trey's in the building. We're ready to get to work. You were willing to answer it one way and not the other. That tells me that, yes, he came to you and said, I want out at all costs. Get me out of here, and I'm not practicing today. We're not doing this. That's the way that I believe that it went down. And ultimately, the reason he's back is because he doesn't have any leverage. He's on a rookie contract. If he doesn't play, he loses money. He looks like a malcontent, even though he's probably very deserved in these thoughts. And he also doesn't accrue a year, so he has no leverage. He has to play, so now he's back.
Yeah, so the only reason I disagree with that is because I think the timing for Trey Lance to do it doesn't make sense. Because why would he choose August 23rd of all days to finally decide?
Because he thought he was competing until he wasn't.
So that's my point. I think my interpretation of the sequence of events is similar to yours, but I have a few different theories on the details. I think similar to you, Shanahan went and said this, but now this is where Krug's theory comes into this, because I agree with Krug's theory, and this was Grant's original theory. Lance and Darnold are represented by the same agent, Jimmy Sexton and CAA, powerful quarterback agent, right? I think Jimmy Sexton called the team and was like, yo, we're not going to do this game of limbo with both my clients. You pick one of them. I think Kyle, forced to pick the next day, I don't think he was in a position, said, okay, I'm going to pick Sam. I think Trey was like, wait, what? You're going to pick Sam? I'm out of here. What the hell? And he left. And then that's when they did the spin job of, we want him to stay here. He was upset, so we gave him the day off, blah, 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 all of that. I think it stems from a sequence of events of what he said. Because it's odd to me that within 24 hours of him saying specifically that he didn't want to reveal the backup quarterback, he revealed it. And to me, somebody had to have put pressure for him to reveal it, causing the other chain of events. And the only person I could see invested in Trey and Sam enough to need that answer is the agent that represents both of them, Jimmy Sexton.